if you would classify yourself, would you classify yourself as a white witch? Because
Maybe more of a grey witch.
there's a grey witch.
Chaos magic is people. At first, when I heard it, I felt like, oh, people are creating chaos, but that's not what it is. It's basically when you don't stick to only one practice. So you go and you learn about different religions, you learn about different magical systems. I was still aware of what's happening, so I would move my hands I would try to keep my hands separate to resist it, and notice that if I'm resisting my hands and if they're stuck together, I've never ever experienced anything like that, and it was fun. And it was at no point, if you tell someone that something was moving my body and I was like possessed, that's the terrifying thing. It was not. It was funny, it was exciting, I was curious.
From the Horse's Mouth is an outlet for people that have unbelievable stories. Things that can be classified as supernatural. I have Miriam here with me to share some unbelievable stories.
Maybe they're very believable.
Maybe we don't know.
You don't know.
Miriam, before we get into your stories, could you walk me through like your background and how you've come to where you are right now?
I came to discovering like more of myself through a performance. So I've been an artist all my life. Since I remember, I love to draw, and I love finding images in clouds and in stones and in rocks. It just saw patterns everywhere, and I always saw faces. So I always had this kind of a playful approach to creating images and discovering them everywhere. And I always loved this idea of psychic powers and magicians and fortune tellers, and I'm Iranian, so part of my culture that is part of the culture in a way. I mean, not everybody's into it, but doing psychic reading or going to see someone who would do card reading, or reading the Turkish coffee grains is very popular, and it's just part of the culture. There's always fortune teller, and especially when you're young, you really kind of go to someone's house and they do the reading for you. So it's just this sort of a fun thing has always been, and a lot of my friends we would try to read the grains, and it was just part of the culture. If you're hanging out with friends, there's always a coffee cup, and there's always Turkish coffee, and everybody tried to read for one another, try to describe the images. And my grandmother was really good at it, and she only did it sometimes, only when some relatives would ask, and then we would have a little bit of Turkish coffee, and then she would just describe certain images and certain kind of very jokingly, not really taking it seriously, and just saying that, I know I can see a lot of images, just like me. She was very good at this, finding images and everything. So, but it was never seen as a serious thing. She would just do it for friends and family, so only sometimes. And so it's just something always been around me, and maybe we took it seriously and didn't, and always saw it as a fun thing. Nobody really kind of took life decisions based on those. It was just kind of a fun activity. And I was always fascinated about the idea of magic and people being witches, but I always saw that as a kind of entertainment, and I never saw it as a real thing. It was only when I came to England in my early 20s. I was born here, by the way, and lived in Iran, so the migration was quite easy. I was lucky that I could just decide and come and settle, and which had its own challenges. But part of those challenges was that I spent a lot of time on my own, so I was quite homesick a little bit, and struggling to connect to everyone, and so I had no time to be with myself and look into the idea of magic. Just came across that from just, watching TV series and like Buffy, and then realizing that I'm finding information about witches that actually practice witchcraft, or people that are really psychic, and all those things that for me existed on TV became real slowly.
Yeah, but what was your, say, family, when you were younger, what was your family practice? What was the religion in your family?
Islam.
Islam.
I come from a
cool.
Muslim
I
family,
just wanted to
but the
ask
practice of Islam was is not very strict, or it's not. It's part of the way it is in my family. It's part of the. It's just part of the fabric, Like we would have some celebration, but just a little bit. Like my grandmother always did a bit of prayer, but not very seriously, and she made a lot of mistakes doing them because Arabic is not our first language. And I was hearing her, it's like, that's all wrong. But she just did it because it was always part of her upbringing, and it's part of who she is, rather than being very strict about the belief system. It's just kind of really embedded in the culture, in some families. And in my family, that kind of belief in supernatural was always seen as nobody really believed it, even though they could show, like my grandmother definitely showed elements, like moments that you could see that she's been very psychic, and there were things that you would demonstrate, and my mom as well, but it was never seen as like, oh yeah, it's something, or it's a real thing, they just ignored it as just something funny or interesting, a coincidence. So I didn't really grow up with it. Now looking back, I'm realizing it was there. It was always present, and nobody really thought it was anything strange. And so after having the interest, I was looking into, and at that time, internet was not what it is these days. It was very limited, the website that you had online, and it would take there was no social media. It was like early 2000, none of these things that we have now. So it was difficult to find communities or connect to people or information. Even you had to really kind of go to different forums and just read a lot of different posts and to kind of get an idea.
When did it become serious? When did it go from being that playful thing, from you guys practice watching your grandmother do all of that, to you now being that curious child that was still playing with it? When did it go from all of that to like, okay, yeah, this is my life now?
So that was, I think, it was a very, very slow, gradual journey. And it started with my interest kind of realizing that, actually, there are people that practice magic for real. I mean, that was the first thing to realize. That was when I came to UK.
Okay.
So it started to really, I started to understand magic as a real thing. Because for me, it was something that existed in books and films, and it was not real. It was just entertainment, and just maybe there's something strange, but I don't know. And then since then, from early 2000, I started really following gradually. Maybe there was like around 2008, 2009, there was internet was more active. And at that time, I was already connecting to people that were magicians. So my interest kind of, I found, obviously, it was through art and through finding artists, connecting to artists, and in meeting friends of friends and noticing some people were really active in the occult world. And for me, it was still entertainment, and I was just curious and wanted to know more. And so it became part of this group and friends that started doing rituals, and I had no idea what was going on, but I was so curious, and I would just join in. And it was very playful, but I liked about it. They were kind of seriously honoring a certain spirit, and it wasn't anything weird. Thankfully, I didn't end up in a group that were doing weird stuff, but they were just more playing and maybe saying a hello to an entity. and a lot of it was playful. I even felt made up, which I learned more about chaos magic, understanding that it's a belief system that you can borrow from lots of different things and kind of create your own system, which was fascinating. And for me, introduction to magic was through that, which is
your first was chaos magic.
that was like way advanced in some way. Because I had very little knowledge of lots of other systems. So I'm still trying to figure out if magic is real. And then I meet a group of really funny chaos magicians, and also very serious. They were serious researchers, and they'd written books, and they were producing this occult magazine, and they were very seriously practicing occultists. And for me, for that to be the tangible experience of magic, to go from, oh, I wonder if these things in Buffy is real, to like, yes, we're doing a circle now. Like, what? So it was a really kind of a funny jump for me. And of course, it took me a while, and they were very kind to kind of just explain, but not overload me with stuff. Just teach me ways to start understanding my intuition, and kind of slowly understanding just how, like, to get an idea. I don't know I can fully understand, like, because it's just the more you learn, it's just the more you learn, and just it kind of gave me a taste of, oh wow, there's more. I'm feeling this field. There's like this stuff is happening around us, and it can be a little scary, and at the same time it's exciting. So as though my skin became more sensitive to energies through being around them. So I could feel a physical sensation of certain energies. And up to that point, I never paid attention to it. It wasn't really clear to me. So that was like the first thing that I physically started feeling and sensing things, which, if you explain to someone the experiences, they're like, well, obviously it was all in your head. Like, it wasn't anything serious happening, but it was this internal feeling and what you were feeling on your body, like the sensations of energies that you kind of interacted with. And it was beautiful, but it was short. And then there was, like, again, a bit of gap, and I kind of dive back in, but more in a spiritual way, like getting into more meditation and doing it a bit more regularly, and becoming aware of just there are these, like, a kind of meditation practice that kind of focuses on opening the heart. And I've done other meditations and kind of tried different things, but it was just really just tiptoeing around a lot of things rather than taking on a practice and just really focusing on mindfulness or focusing on meditation and my body and my breath. And it all, when I started to do that, then I could feel more connection. Then my senses were becoming stronger and stronger. So it was a really gradual, slow journey that maybe had like certain bursts of experience, and then it kind of wandered off again, and then came back to it, and every time it got stronger and stronger. So it wasn't a very kind of a straightforward journey. So it kind of finally, and I would be experiencing different things, like little visions here and there, or once during a meditation, I kind of felt as though there's an entity going inside from, like, I felt something going inside, entering me. Like, I really felt as if there was a consciousness,
something physically
entering me. And for me, validation is if I'm physically feeling something. For me, that's like, okay, there's something physical is happening. It's not all in my head. And I could feel this presence entered my body. And I was at no point scared. I was like, oh, this is interesting. This was during a meditation.
Okay.
So there wasn't anything, that was not supposed to be, that was not the aim. So it was a heart-opening meditation. And I'm just sitting there quietly, focusing on my heart, and I'm meditating with someone else who's like a tutor type of thing. So it just helps you meditate. And I could feel like I'm focusing on my heart. And all you do is you focus on your heart. Like, at no point you're saying anything, doing anything. And this happens. So this energy comes in, and I'm feeling that it's going in and it's doing this, like moving my body. So my body was and kind of fitting in, you know, like how you put a coat on, and kind of and that was happening. So it was kind of settling in my body, and then I started using my hands, and my hands were moving so quickly, and I have my eyes closed, but I'm really feeling my hands are doing really strange things, and they were doing mudras, and I don't know much about mudras. And later I looked up to see what was I doing. Then I realized
Is it the
the
sign,
different hand signs, and I still don't know that much about them, but I could see that I was making certain mudras connected to certain energies, and it felt like what was happening was I was being tuned, or there was like some clearing happening, and the whole purpose of these meditations before you start, it was like a bit of an initiation into a system. It was that you are becoming cleared and you kind of cleansing yourself. Like if the idea was like 3 consecutive days, you're doing cleaning. Like you're focusing on your heart opening, but you're also clearing a lot of energy, a lot of stuff.
So you're cleaning yourself to get ready for what?
To practice,
to be able to practice,
which is the main focus. It was on basically opening your heart, keeping the lights, focusing on the light on your heart, and cleaning any buildup of energy that you just imagine that you're kind of releasing it from the back in form of a smoke. We're just kind of So it was very straightforward and nothing too complicated. And whenever I described my experience of this entity entered, it was basically doing something. It was obviously moving my hands. It was very purposefully moving my fingers as if I was a puppet. And I could resist it a little bit. And then my hands, because I was also conscious. It wasn't like it wasn't taking over me completely. I was still aware of what's happening. So I would move my hands, I would try to keep my hands separate to resist it, and notice that if I'm resisting my hands and I get stuck together, and I'd never ever experienced anything like that, and it was fun. And it was at no point, if you tell someone that something was moving my body and I was like possessed, that's the terrifying thing. It was not. It was funny. It was exciting. I was curious, and I think it obviously was not a bad thing. I felt very safe, so I think that on its own helped me to just go with it. So I would let that, and it was happening a bit after that as well every time I meditated, but that time was very, very serious, and so much was happening, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And the person in front of me had no idea, because I was very silent and my hands.
It wasn't scary at any point?
At no point. It was actually really funny. And yeah, at no point it was scary. I felt the main thing was curiosity. I was really trying to understand what is happening.
Did you want to experience more after that?
I did, but I noticed that it was not needed. So just something came through, did what was necessary, whatever it was. It kind of felt like as if there was a language, as if it was something being coded in me. I don't know what was happening. It was connected to certain energies. I tried to understand the mudras a little bit after that, but I still couldn't get any information or understanding, because I asked anybody in that meditation group, what happened? That was fun. What was that all about? They were like, that should not happen. Next time it happens, maybe just hold your hands separate, because you're supposed to sit very still. It's like, are you sure? Because it really felt like it had to happen. They were like, no. That shouldn't happen. And I kept asking different people in the group if they've experienced anything like it. They were very confused. That they were like, that's what? So I still don't know what happened and why it happened, but it felt it was a positive thing. And so again, I went off and I came back to the spiritual path and becoming more aware. It was like something would be awakened, something is shown to me, and I would go, oh wow, that's very interesting. I'm just going to ignore it and go somewhere else. So that was my journey. I kept moving
shown
away.
To you in what way?
Like the different experience I had with doing the rituals and this meditation, and many other occasions that I experienced something very supernatural. But for me now, it's the most natural thing. It doesn't feel supernatural anymore. And then I would wander off, live my life as though that did not happen, and then come back to it. I always think about that was fun, but not pursue it until in 2014. I started. I was doing, because I'm also an artist, so I perform, but the performance is usually experimental. So I would perform in a way to try something out and experience something new. And in this performance, I wanted to feel connection to audience member. And there was an opportunity, a friend of mine was putting up a night that allowed artists to experiment and bring work in progress and get feedback. And I thought I always wanted to kind of feel, have a performance that I could get close to people and touch their hands and feel physical and just hold that moment and see what happens. And this venue had a kind of a cave, and I thought that would be perfect. I'm going to be the oracle in the cave. I'm going to come and be the oracle, and they can come and then we'll see what happens. So I created a really fun environment because I also love a bit of installation. I use so many different modalities. I work with objects and creating a set or just dressing up a set is just a really fun thing for me. So I did that. I made it so cozy and colorful and magical with incense and candles and everything that could put me in the oracle mode. And I just wanted to feel like I am the oracle, and I don't know why I even chose that, because there is this image of oracle in the cave, kind of an ancient oracle that you go and ask a question, just something like that kind of appealed to me. So I waited. The first person came, and I was just playing around in a space, and I had like incense, and I had some turmeric, or I had some crystals, and I would interact with people using these props and just intuitively, just playing, really seeing what happens. And the first person, when I held their hands, but I held everyone's hands that came. So that was the physical connection that I wanted to make. And it would mostly be silent, but I held their hand and I closed my eyes, and the first person I started seeing a vision. I started seeing in my mind's eye. I started seeing them, with certain imagery, as if there was a story being played out, but it was very dreamy and it was very symbolic, and kind of I felt a meaning, but it wasn't very clear what it was. So I just ignored it, and that person left, and I interacted with them in a certain way, but I didn't say anything. I said something in regards to the vision I had seen, but I didn't tell them what I saw. Then the next person came, and I could see in her face that it touched her. Like, you could feel like
what you said
from
to her.
the reaction that she had, it meant something. So when she left, the next person came, and again, I interacted. I closed my eyes, I held their hand, and as soon as I closed my eyes, I started seeing things, seeing an image and seeing a scene, and again seeing the person I'm holding that is in front of me, and in a situation that looks very dreamy. It's a space that looks it's like a dream landscape. So, and some could be in a cave, some could be in nature, or some could be like around water. So it was very elemental, and it was beautiful, like amazing. Like, imagine that you're seeing like the best produced image, with the great lighting, and it has like beautiful scenery, like the best holiday image that you can see. It was like that, very vivid and colorful. So, but at that point, I started describing what I see, and we would have a conversation, and they responded, and many confirmed that that's how they felt, or that's where they were in their life, and we started having a chat about some crisis they were going through, and it was different for each person. I was there for like 4 or 5 hours, and I had a queue.
Wow.
So people kept calling their friends, and they said, "Come, there's an oracle." So people would come with a question, and it by the end of it, I was the oracle in the cave, and I really have no idea how that happened. Whether I could do that always, whether I have no idea, but it was the right time for it. And after that, I had to only do it with friends to begin with.
Why?
Because for me, I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what had happened. It was something completely new. It was kind of a shock, but I was excited. And when I did this, I was wearing a costume. And I felt that in order to access that, I had to wear this costume. So I would wear the costume to kind of tap into that aspect of that character. And I would do it for friends, I would do it for colleagues, but I always would dress up like as this, with all the different jewelry and having like different dishes with incense. I needed to have a little bit of a performance to become that. And and it kept getting stronger, and more people responded with the kind of, sometimes it was scared from the things I was seeing, or sometimes very confused because it was very cryptic, because you know what it's like when you see a dream, you don't exactly know what it means.
Understand it, yeah.
You know, and then you need to, and it was from that, the information is from that realm, it's from that the realm of the subconscious, the dream,
So
the imagery.
were you interpreting dreams for people as well?
Sometimes I come, but I don't, and even with I feel that sometimes they have similar meanings, but the dream logic and the way the dreams are formed is still different to that. Like it's still, it seems that it comes from the same place, but the way you see it, there is a linearity in a way to the story that I see, which the longer I did it, I noticed that that it basically, it is kind of showing a little bit of the past, a little bit of the current, present, and a little bit of the future, and then I really believe it's just showing the present, because in the present we carry a past, and our future is also still in our mind. We're creating our future. So I think what I'm seeing is the current, is the present information that I'm seeing.
You mentioned entities. When you were getting like introduced to these things, that you communicate with entities. Did you actually physically communicate with any entity at some point?
I do communication with entities, but it's in my mind's eye a lot of times. So I have to close my eyes and I kind of tune in to a certain energy, or if I'm somewhere like in a space, I want to see if there's something I can pick up, I do that. But I kind of feel sometimes it gets stronger, sometimes that's not the focus of when I work. That's not necessarily the focus. So the main thing I focus on is the visions that I see. So if there is an entity kind of communicating, I would place the entity in like an environment that I've visualized, that I've created. So it's kind of safe space that I call it like, and of course, like I forgot to say that I love working with angels, and I love kind of and that was part of my life before I see the visions. So it would kind of go back and forth, and the angels, the idea of angels, again, it was something that sounded like really strange, and I was like, no, really, I mean, really doing work with angels? And then they came in, like they really entered my life, so I really kind of connected to them.
Angels in the sense of like you're getting messages in forms of like visions, or angels,
yes,
or
angels,
physical angels.
Angels in the form of like archangels, and the idea of archangels, and also their god, and jinn. I don't know. I don't get names, or I don't see like a full description of what they are, but I really feel the presence. So I would, for example, have a communication with angels, and the answers would come in the form of synchronicities, or sometimes very direct thoughts that really feels very forceful. And but I have to open the communication. It's not the sort of thing that I would just get messages from angels. You know, I have to kind of tune in to work with them. And a lot of times I get the answers through numbers, through angel numbers, or just through just pulling cards, or I get the answers in different ways that I decide to be the source that I receive the information. So when I work with, I visualize, for example, communication with entities, I always make sure that I've got protection, that I kind of tune into my angels, like or Archangel Michael, and kind of put in the protection, and then allow the communication to happen and see what it is. And but my focus is on, when I see visions, it's when I want to help people. So when they ask me for a reading, and I forgot to mention that by doing these readings and kind of allowing the visions to form for friends and families, I gradually kind of build enough confidence to start doing it for strangers. Because I thought, like, maybe I know these people. Let's see how would it work with the strangers, more with the strangers, even though my first experience was with the strangers, but I needed to kind of build myself up to kind of get back into opening myself up, like, hey, you know, do you want a reading? And of course, I would offer it for free for some time to understand if it's a real thing. And then I realized that I can do it distantly, so it was just all this gradual realization, noticing that, oh, I don't need to hold somebody's hand. If I have their picture, I can connect to them. No problem.
Have you ever like helped someone solve a mystery? through your practice?
A lot of times when people come to me, it is the focus is around relationships. So that has been the main thing. I mean, I did have people sometimes coming for very strange reasons, but most of the people, most of my clients, they come for, they want to focus on the relationships, they want to heal their relationships, or they want to know if somebody's cheating on them, which I've moved away from that kind of reading. So in the beginning it was a lot of relationship readings, knowing if somebody's cheating or are they genuine or all of that. And then the longer I did it, I realized that's not the level I want to work with. I want to work with people that want to go beyond that. I'm not into not relying on me telling them what to do, because I realized that no, people need to decide for themselves. So I can't be enabling that, and moved away from that. So at the moment, people will come with if they want to understand the source of their imbalances. Like there's a pattern they want to heal, they want to work on themselves, or they've started feeling the psychic kind of abilities wakening up, being awakened, and not knowing what to do with it or direction to go. So I kind of can help them to channel to just understand the self-care and the importance of grounding and how to. But what I've learned a lot, which some of it was. I received a lot of good guidance from friends and from people that were around me, but sometimes I had to learn myself and discover things on my own way. But sometimes I didn't even know where to begin to study it. So I've always been researching it or following certain people that are teaching a lot of important spiritual information. And this is a really confusing world because so many people can say different things, and especially I was introduced to it from chaos magic, and it means that you work with so many different, you can work with so many different systems.
Chaos magic. I think I have an idea what it means, but I want you to explain to me like I do not know.
So chaos magic is people. At first, when I heard it, I felt like, oh, people are creating chaos, but that's not what it means. It's basically when you don't stick to only one practice. So you go and you learn about different religions, you learn about different magical systems, and you, as if you just wear a different lens, and you go and fully immerse yourself into a certain idea without questioning it, and you try it out, and you understand what you want to learn from it, you experience it, and then you can go into something else. Because the way I see that is, I'm not describing it very well because I am dyslexic, but it is the idea that all the different, as if there is like a higher source that expresses itself in different forms. Imagine like it's all part of one thing.
Wait, so that basically says there's magic in every religion.
Absolutely.
There's magic in every religion. And what chaos magic does, if I understand it correctly, is you go in and pick from each of these religions. Say for the Bible now, for the Christianity now, you can go in the Bible and use Psalms or something.
Yeah.
To do some
use
magic.
It in your daily prayer or
in your daily prayer.
In your practice. But it's important to understand that, not just go and go like, I'm going to take that, and it's important to understand that. And of course, different people would approach it differently, but it's good to understand the basics, I believe. Like, especially when you do art, when you want to do, because I'm like also studied graphic design and I'm an artist. So in order to do whatever you want to do, it's good to understand different styles. It's good to understand different mediums. Learn it to whatever degree you like, and then you can do your own thing. So it's very similar. And I think it's the most artistic, it's the most creative kind of belief system, because you're not stuck with one thing. And you're not disagreeing with anyone. You actually respect. This is my approach. I respect all the belief systems. I respect all the religions. And I can see how that works, and I can see how when I tune into it, I can go and really worship instead of just pretend. I can really put myself, and it's all in the internal experience. It's based on the internal experiences, the mindset.
You have to accept it.
How you really immerse yourself in it, and then you take different things from that, and then you can build your own system, and you can just kind of create your own magical practices and magical kind of routines. But it's important to have a structure. It's nothing chaotic. It's like the structure is very important. You need to have a very specific reason for yourself why you use different entities and practices.
So I have a question for you. Do you believe in remote viewing?
I do. Have
you ever tried it?
I have tried it. Because it's a very different thing. There's a remote viewing and there is picking information psychically. So remote viewing, where you actually physically can describe certain things.
Yeah.
And I really think sometimes I play around with ideas of that. I also did a little bit of a course about it, and I can see interesting tools that can help you to do remote viewing, and you don't need to be psychic to do remote viewing. So there's a very specific military grade training that you can do.
Military?
Yeah, because they were doing that in the military.
Oh wow.
And there is they've been doing a lot of research on remote viewing in the military in America, and maybe other places we don't know. And it's all out in the open. You can just, it's all the declassified information, so you can access that.
Okay.
And it's a very interesting thing. And I haven't, but it requires a lot of focus, a lot of practice. And I only maybe tiptoed around it a little bit, and I was like, I can see how this can work. And it's not what you think. It's not like you're going to see a clear picture. It's not. It's a
puzzle.
It's not like that. Maybe some people can, I don't know, but it's not like that. It's more about getting, as if you're receiving data about a certain thing, and it could be giving you a picture, an image based on that data. It's like we're getting a little bit of information, which together you can form a
bigger picture.
Yeah, you can build a picture. It's very interesting. Very kind of feels very scientific. It's really kind of it's very methodical.
I've come across
it's very methodical. But then with the psychic, it's different kind of receiving information. But I really think, what is in the air? What is in the air between us? Like this is all information. This existed how long? It's full of stuff. Just because we don't see it, and it's not just gases and particles. Like there's other things here which maybe we're not able to pick it up yet.
What do you mean, like spirits? Or?
Not only spirits, it's information. It's the spirits. It's full of information. It's data. I see all these things as data. So it's emotional data. It's all energy.
Energy, yeah.
It's all energy. It's residues of echoes of everything is in this, and all the elements. But I think air is interesting because it moves around the planet, it's constantly moving and it's got everything in it. So imagine if we could just connect with the air alone.
What's the one experience that you might have had that shook you in the sense that it made you just realize that wow, this is powerful?
I think that entity entering my body, that was the most powerful and the most physical and the most undeniable thing that was happening. Because I could feel it in my body and physical things was happening. I never experienced anything like that, because all the other experiences I had, it was in my mind's eye a lot of times. And maybe it was something that could be kind of sensed in the air, but nothing very tangible. Maybe it could, maybe I imagined that. Maybe just something in my arm. Maybe but this was the most physical thing that happened. And again, I know it was real. If I describe it to anyone else, it's like, well, you could be making this up, or it could be just a part of you, but it was definitely an external, which could be me from a different time entering, because it could be complete loop. And I'm very open to the idea of all these magical things. It's just being an extension of ourselves and just different aspects of ourselves, all these angels and yeah, totally. Isn't that cool though? It doesn't make it less interesting. and less real.
That's really interesting. I had like I spoke to a lady that was talking about you're talking about like your mind's eye and downloads and stuff. But she gets that, but physically, it's like her body vibrates. She gets like sound, like messages coming in.
Yes.
So like she physically vibrates, and then she has to like decipher that message over time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it physically shakes her.
Yes, physically.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating how different people are tuning in differently, and just how different we all are. It's not the same for everyone, and you would have different abilities. Some people hear things very physically. Because I have a very strong visual, because of just saying, like, as I see faces everywhere, and now I see them as these faces are really there. I'm not imagining, they're there. I don't know what they are. I see them in the trees. I see them in everything. All the patterns. It's constantly dense with imagery, and it's like, what if it's just all like different souls, or maybe it's an imprint of souls or other beings, because they look very alive sometimes. But because I have a very strong, also being an artist, drawing since I was young, and really having a strong visual ability, so I can visualize really well. I can see details, even though my eyes are not perfect. Like, I need to be wearing glasses, which I don't like to, because I really enjoy not seeing things clearly, because I can see more, because it's in the blurry
That makes sense.
kind of,
That
because
really screens your
I
eyes.
find that the crisp details kind of can distract you from like lots of other things in between.
Well, if you had like to describe your practice in just one word, what would you call it? Not the arts, the spiritual side.
The spiritual side.
Yeah, what would you classify it as? Like just one word.
Oh, that's a hard one, because you're asking a dyslexic person to word something. Joy is just
Joy.
just like
Okay, say in the sense of religion, say if we're talking about, okay, yes, you're a psychic, you're a witch, you're a witcher priestess, what would you classify yourself as? Or what would you say you practice?
that is again, you said, or not art, because you think art is an easier one for me to categorize myself as one thing. Maybe mystic.
Huh?
Mystic.
The mystic. Or
Mystic
just,
covers all of it, and I think
covers
it gives
everything.
a little bit of a less of a dark witch,
Yeah.
because I think it kind of is at a level of, you don't expect a mystic to control people or want to.
It's just for self.
Because I think it has a more light in
Develop
it.
yourself.
For me, it's got a and also it's connection to divine, and I see it as like is my way, my belief system. I just believe in this beautiful divine source that is in everyone and everything.
Say out of like, I know about, like, I don't know if you believe in that, there's like red witch, black witch, white witch.
I believe in everything.
If you would classify yourself, would you classify yourself as a white witch? Because
maybe more of a grey witch.
There's a grey witch.
No, I would say, if you were going to give a color,
What's
I would say white.
What's a grey witch?
But I think giving a color, what would the color would define? Like, what would you call a white witch? What would you call a black witch?
So from like what we know about like witches from films, so white witches are basically like healers.
Yes.
Healers, therapists, stuff like that.
Oh, I'm more of a healer. I'm more of a, because I and also in my journey I'm still doing. It's endless. The healing journey is endless. And the more you heal yourself, you can help others to heal themselves, because you can identify the patterns you went through in other people. It's like, that thing, I did this, it helped. Hey, so it's through my own journey and dealing with my own darkness and pain that I'm able to help others. But the reason I say it's grey is because you need to be able to go in really, really, really dark places comfortably.
And come out of it.
You can't be scared of it. You can't be, love and light. Let's just not talk about all the thing.
Dark parts of it.
That's why I say it's more of a grey, because I think it makes it too binary to say white and black and dark and light. And I think I see dark magic or black magic as when you're taking control of someone, when you want to change the will, or you want to kind of give them
Favor
bad
yourself.
energy, to feed yourself. It's a bit like narcissistic, or it's a bit and it's a bit like being a parasite, a little bit. It can be seen like that. But again, there are many people that call themselves black magicians, dark magicians, and they don't necessarily do that. They work with dark energies, but it doesn't mean necessarily. It's also a very complicated realm. So a lot of people that were close friends, they were considering themselves dark magicians, and it meant like they worked with dark entities. But that meant that they connected to them, and maybe they, it was part of their practice to honor them. But they were lovely people. They were really. So it's a very complicated realm to just easily say like these are white witches and these are dark witches, and I think and I think it's a personal choice. You can't judge somebody who does that. It's their choice. I think we have all kinds of dark and light characters in this life. We all come to play a game, play a role, and some people play a dark role. It is a movie after all, and I see life as that, and I think it's really personal choice, and it's a personal journey. And just like people, so there are some people that have this kind of a darkness about them. They talk bad about other people. They want to manipulate them, and they want to poison their minds. And imagine you do that with witchcraft. It's no different. You could do it with words, or you can just burn stuff.
So
same thing.
If before we go, is there like any story you can share with us that that sheds light on what to do and puts it in, maybe say makes it, I don't want to use the word relatable, but just any story really that you can share with us apart from the ones you've shared.
In what way? What would you like it to?
Like say maybe there was a practice, maybe it was eye-opening, maybe it was insightful, like it was significant in your journey as a...
I think one thing I like to share, because I can be unstoppable when it comes to stories, but one thing I've learned in my journey that I would love everyone to pay attention to is honoring the ancestors. Because it doesn't matter which religion you are, which culture you are, we always have to honor our ancestors. That should be primary. It's so important to honor our ancestors, honor our parents. Whatever they did, whatever they were, we're here because of them, and they created us. We're in that lineage, and it's so important to do that. And you see that is so important in many magical practices. Ancestor worship, honoring the ancestors, and really bringing them into your daily life, like they're as if they're with you, and they're part of us. They're part of our flesh and blood. So I think it doesn't matter what religion people are. They don't need to start doing any kind of a strange practice, but they could just remember their family members, and just honoring them. It's so easy to remember, and I had to go my own journey, because I had difficulties with my grandmother, with my dad, and it's so easy to kind of get stuck in the painful patterns you had with them. But it brings you so much blessing in your life when you actually honor them, truly honor them.
That's really insightful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You really bring blessing into your life.
That's something I'll take away from this.
Whatever you do, magic, what doesn't matter what you believe. It really doesn't matter if you're an atheist or
just honor your ancestors.
Just remember the dead, and just send them love in your heart. That's the most important thing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for sharing. You so much for doing this.
You have such a beautiful energy, I must say.
Oh, thank you so much.
Right from the moment you stepped in, you re-energized everyone here.
Oh, thank you. And this is such a lovely, you're wonderful here. It has such a wonderful energy here. I felt at home immediately.
Is there one last question before we go? Is there like a way to reach you? If so, I don't know if you still do you still like accept people to do readings?
Absolutely, yes. I'm redoing my website, because as I said, I'm moving away from being just a psychic reader, because I'm the awakening guide. I'm noticing that people go through a certain awakening, and they, they want to grow more, and they need someone to just help them to do it in their own way.
Yeah.
And
For
find
those
their
people,
way.
is there any way they can reach you apart from maybe I'll leave your
Yeah, I
socials
think the
or something.
easiest one is my Instagram, because
Okay.
I'm also combining everything together instead of having different accounts.
Okay.
So my social media, my Instagram is, you can see me as an artist, and also the spiritual practice is
Lovely,
also mentioned.
lovely.
So through that you can contact me. Same number, same email.
No problem. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Alison.